So we've seen the IMF's, statement after they approved some $367 million for Ghana. They're talking about how the Bank of Ghana should reduce its interventions in the forex market. First of all, help us understand what's wrong with the Bank of Ghana interfering in the forex market. After all, we have always said that, Bank of Ghana's work that it does is aimed at is inflation targeting. Everything it does seeks to reduce inflation when it comes to even monetary policy rate. So if we say we have, imported inflation, shouldn't they be working on the exchange rate, Professor Bokpin?
All right, thank you very much. To a large extent, your proposition sits quite well. But on a broader scale and for more sustainability, one would associate more with the IMF. And I'll give you a couple of reasons.
Please do.
One of the important functions of the market is what we call price discovery.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that comes about when you allow the forces of demand and supply from demand side, from supply side to arrive at a price that will be reflective of what the true dynamics of the market is, if we are talking about the price. But where you have a situation where, as it currently stands, the central bank, being a regulator, is also a dominant player in the market. So Bank of Ghana has, to a large extent, upper hand in terms of control of FX and how that FX is spilled over onto the market. So to that extent, the price signaling effect will come more from the central bank rather than the market playing its discovery role. And that is what we are seeing here. Now, when you have that situation, Bank of Ghana may have their reason. It may benefit us temporarily and all of that. But when you have that situation, market participants may have the impression that the true rate is not really the official rate, which is influenced to a large extent by the central bank. They wouldn't want to transact with that particular rate. Now, if you look at what is happening right now, if you pick the rate at the bank level, if you want to sell USD dollars at the bank level, you are likely to get it at maybe probably 10.1 or so. Some are even doing 9.8 or so. However, if you look at the other layers of the market, the Forex Bureau, I don't want to even talk about the black market now, but I will eventually end there. If you look at the Forex Bureau, the price differential is working up to almost 20%. In some instances, the data we looked at, we're looking at close to 25%. Now, if you compare that to black market, you are getting close to 35%. So what that means is that you are operating a system where there are multiple rates. So you then have the official rate sitting with the banks or with Bank of Ghana, but the transaction rate will be outside the corridor, right? And when you do that consistently, you are actually fueling the development of the black market rather than roping in the transactions within the official or the formal financial system. So we have to look at the multiple entries of FX into the market.
Okay.
If you compare the multiple entries in terms of supply of FX into the market, and you compare that to the intervention of the central bank, the weight of the intervention is more on the side of the central bank rather than the trickling in from the forces of demand and supply, which should settle the equilibrium or the real exchange rates. Beyond that broader issue, the other thing to even look at is that, and I believe that the central bank is working at that. At one hand, one is likely to have a soft side from the central bank because of where we have come from, especially when the CD had suffered a run consistently in the last couple of years. When the crisis peaked in 2022, the CD suffered a run. It lost more than 50% of its trading value and all of that.